The first time I walked into Jacob Byler's Lower Stone Barn in East Hempfield Township, Lancaster County, in the middle of August, I expected diesel. What I found instead changed something. The room was cool in a way that made no sense. Outside, the gravel lane shimmered. Inside, the limestone held a cellar smell of dust, dry stalks, and old oil. I heard flies at the window. I heard harness leather shift in the next room. I did not hear an engine. I stood there for 11 minutes looking for the tank. It wasn't there. And that's when I understood I'd been wrong about everything. The fuel was not in a pump. It was in the field. It was standing in rows. It was drying in bundles. It was waiting to be pressed, fermented, or cooked into the same carbon chains your engine already understands. I have been going back to Lancaster County every fall for 3 years, and every time I find something the fuel industry forgot on purpose. The shock was not that the old men knew a trick. The shock was that the trick was never really a trick. It was a chain of ordinary decisions. Grow the right plant, dry it correctly, press the seed, save the stalk, turn one fraction into light, another into heat, another into liquid fuel. Nothing in that chain requires a multinational refinery. Nothing in that chain asks your permission slip from a utility office. The field does the hard part first. That was the realization. Not romance, not nostalgia, just arithmetic written in leaves and oil. If a plant can build carbon chains from sunlight for free, then every gas station in your county is competing with photosynthesis itself. That is a fight no company can win honestly. So they did not fight it honestly. Here is the promise. By the end of this, you will understand how one dismissed plant stores sunlight as oil, cellulose, and alcohol, and why a gallon built from it can return 4.5 units of fuel energy for every one fossil unit spent making it. And yes, this works even if you live in a city. Stay with me, because what I found in Lancaster County uses the same physics the Romans used to light streets and workshops 2,000 years ago. And I'm not asking you for faith. I am going to show you the chemistry, the history, the money trail, and the practical setup that lets you test this on a scale small enough to manage. If you only want the suppressed history, stay. If you only want the usable blueprint, stay. If you want both, this is the one video you were supposed to miss. That 4.5 number matters for another reason. It offends the story you were raised on. You were told modern fuel begins in a refinery, then becomes useful after experts touch it. The number says something harsher. A field plus modest chemistry can outwork that myth. Not everywhere, not all at once, but enough to scare anyone who profits from centralized dependence. The science is brutally simple. A plant takes sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide, then locks that energy into carbon chains. Some chains become oil-rich triglycerides in the seed. Others become cellulose in the stalk. Your engine does not worship petroleum. It reacts to heat, vapor, pressure, and combustible molecules. The U.S. Department of Energy's Alternative Fuels Data Center spells out the chemistry in plain numbers. 100 pounds of plant oil reacts with 10 pounds of methanol and a catalyst like sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide. The result is 100 pounds of biodiesel and 10 pounds of glycerin. That is transesterification. It is not magic, it is kitchen chemistry scaled carefully. And the seed is only half the story. The stalk carries cellulose and hemicellulose, which can be broken into fermentable sugars and turned into alcohol for spark ignition engines. That is why the title sounds too big at first. Oil for compression engines, alcohol for spark engines, gas from biomass if you really push it, different routes, same plant, same stored sunlight. Think of it like your own body. You eat sunlight that has been packed into fat, starch, and sugar by a plant. Later, your body unlocks it. A diesel injector does the same job faster. There is another reason this matters. Petroleum comes out of the ground mixed with sulfur, water, salts, and a century of infrastructure costs. A seed comes out of the field already sorted by biology. Nature did the separation upstream. You are not inventing energy. You are just refusing the middlemen. The efficiency gap is where the story turns. In a 2011 Energy Life Cycle Assessment, the United States Department of Agriculture Agricultural Research Service reported a fossil energy ratio of 4.5 for soybean biodiesel. Petroleum diesel came in at 0.83. That is 4.5 units of fuel energy for every one fossil unit of input versus 0.83 for the conventional system. In fuel terms, that is the equivalent metric that matters. That gap represents a massive market in fuel, additives, transport, storage, and service every year. And that is why you have never heard of this. A refinery wants scale. A farm wants resilience. Those goals do not point in the same direction. A refinery needs you dependent on a distant process, a branded pump, and a price you never negotiate. A field only asks weather, timing, and patience. Not because plant fuel is mysterious, because it is local, and locality changes behavior. When fuel begins near your own fence line, waste suddenly becomes visible. Water in oil matters, storage temperature matters, seed quality matters. You stop treating energy like an invisible entitlement and start treating it like food. That shift alone makes a household harder to manipulate because careful people are difficult customers. I saw the living proof in Lancaster County first. Later, I saw the same pattern again near Berlin, Ohio. But the Lancaster visit stayed with me. The air inside that seed room held steady in the mid-60s, while the yard outside sat near 88 degrees. No compressor hummed, no pump clicked, no service van pulled in. Eli stood beside a bench worn silver by hands. He rubbed a seed between his fingers. Then he told me, "My gross dad called it hanf before he called it hemp." Then he pointed toward the loft. He said 4 generations had kept some version of the practice alive, even when the crop itself disappeared from fields. The knowledge stayed in the words, the tools, and the habits. That knowledge came with families from the Palatinate and Canterbury. Then it settled into Pennsylvania soil because it already matched the old logic. Grow fiber, press seed, save oil, use everything. Lydia showed me a drawer of old iron parts, and even there the habit was visible. Nothing got wasted. Nothing got named as trash before it had failed every other use first. Penn State Extension documented the history again in 2024. It noted that more than 100 water-powered mills once processed hemp in Lancaster County alone, and many of them pressed hemp seed into lamp oil. Go back far enough, and the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. In Roman Pompeii, terracotta oil lamps turned plant oil into dependable light with nothing but a wick and airflow. Archaeologists still recover carbon-darkened nozzles from first-century rooms where olive oil did the work. In Han Dynasty China, bronze lamps with fitted lids burned plant-derived fuels while controlling smoke in enclosed rooms. The metal was shaped to trap fumes because efficiency mattered even then. In ancient Egypt, grain and fruit were fermented into alcohol long before anyone dreamed of a carburetor. Some reconstructed beers have tested near 10% alcohol. Different people, different climates. Same answer. They all learned that the field is a battery. The seed is a container. The stalk is stored sunlight. The liquid only changes form. The Romans didn't read this in a textbook. They figured it out the way all real knowledge gets discovered, by paying attention to what the plant was already doing. So did the Han Chinese. So did the Egyptians. Every civilization that mastered energy scarcity arrived at the same answer independently. The Amish never forgot. They carried it from the Palatinate to Pennsylvania 290 years ago. and kept building it because it worked and because they never needed anyone's permission to do what made sense. Now the part that should make you angry. In 1937, Federal Bureau of Narcotics Commissioner Harry Anslinger pushed the Marijuana Tax Act through Congress. While America's chemical and fuel industries were hardening into modern monopolies, hemp threatened too many lines at once. It made fiber. It made paper stock. It made seed oil. It pointed toward alcohol fuel. At almost the same moment, DuPont was preparing nylon for market after spending $27 million on development and another $8 million on its first Seaford production plant. The suppression did not need a dramatic raid. It needed paperwork. House hearings on H.R. 6385 ran from April 27th through May 4th, 1937. The law did not cleanly separate narcotic fear from industrial use. That was the trick. The Marijuana Tax Act of 1937 required anyone handling cannabis, including industrial hemp, to register with the federal government and pay a prohibitive tax. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection History Office says the result plainly. Industrial hemp was caught up in anti-dope legislation, making commercial production less economical. William C. Woodward of the American Medical Association protested during the hearings. He warned Congress they were being asked to pass a measure without real medical grounding. He was ignored. That single legal move turned a farm crop into a bureaucratic risk. The Allies did not need matching signatures. Their incentives already matched. William Randolph Hearst's newspapers sold panic by printing marijuana horror stories and sensational crime copy. Andrew Mellon's Treasury Department oversaw the bureau Anslinger used, and Anslinger was tied to Mellon's family circle. DuPont moved a new synthetic fiber into a market that no longer had to worry about a rehabilitated hemp economy. Media gained circulation, government gained power, industry gained room. Then came the second burial. Schools stopped teaching the crop as an integrated system. Farmers stopped seeing seed, stalk, and oil as parts of one design. Fuel people stopped talking to fiber people. Chemists kept the molecules. Families lost the practice. The state never had to outlaw every memory. It only had to make each piece seem isolated. An entire field of knowledge disappeared from agricultural curricula, engineering habits, and fuel conversations. Not because it failed, because it wasn't profitable. And the pattern never stopped. In 2023, the American Petroleum Institute spent $6.16 million on federal lobbying. While fuel blending rules, refinery interests, and market access fights kept plant-based alternatives boxed into narrow channels. That number matters because it buys delay. It buys committee language. It buys one more year where local fuel looks fringe and imported fuel looks inevitable. Nobody told you, not your builder, not your contractor, not the man who sold you diesel. That knowledge never disappeared. It was filed away. It was waiting. The motor fuel market in America is worth $423.98 billion a year. Every homegrown gallon is a gallon that never gets sold. And here is the insult that never gets mentioned. In 1942, the United States Department of Agriculture released hemp for victory and urged farmers to grow the crop again for war needs. The knowledge never failed. The state resurrected it when rope, webbing, and naval utility suddenly mattered. Then it buried the memory again when the emergency passed. That is the pattern. They do not ban what does not work. They ban it, revive it, and rebury it according to who needs control. Now, if you already own a house and you're thinking this only applies to people with land, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. You don't need to buy equipment. You need a weekend. You already own more of this system than you think. You own containers. You own a shed, a corner of a garage, or a patch of shade where careful work can happen. You own the instinct to compare costs. You own the right to test one batch and watch one engine respond. That is how every buried practice comes back. Not in a national rollout, in one household, then another, then a county fair table, a farm lane conversation, a notebook with stained pages, and a machine that starts on a cold morning because somebody refused to believe the only fuel worth trusting comes from a branded nozzle. That is how systems become family knowledge again. Start small and start honest. Do not begin with a truck. Begin with a single-cylinder diesel generator or an older mechanically injected engine you can afford to learn on. A used 15-gallon HDPE drum costs $18 to $33. Set it on a stand 24 inches high. So a 1/2 inch Schedule 40 PVC drain valve sits 2 inches above your collection jug. Fit a 1,500 watt water heater element through a 1-inch bulkhead. Then wire it through a simple thermostat. Keep the workspace simple. A 30-inch by 48-inch bench is enough. Put the drum under a sheet metal splash guard and keep a Class B extinguisher within 6 feet. Use only HDPE stainless steel or chemically rated hose where the methanol touches. Label everything. Measure twice. The whole point is to build a repeatable habit, not a heroic mess. Pour in 5 gallons of clean seed oil. If you can source hemp seed oil locally, use it. If you cannot, practice with canola first because the chemistry is identical. Heat the oil to 130 degrees Fahrenheit and hold it there. In a separate HDPE container, dissolve 17.5 ounces of sodium hydroxide into 0.5 gallon of methanol. Then add that mixture to the warm oil and recirculate it through a small 1/2 inch pump for 40 minutes. If the oil has visible water, stop there and dry it first. Bring it to 140 degrees for 15 minutes with the lid cracked, then let it fall back to 130 before adding methoxide. Water ruins the reaction. Cold sludge lies to you. Dry feedstock tells the truth. Let the batch settle for 8 hours. Dark glycerin drops first. Drain it from the bottom valve. Then wash the fuel gently with warm water. No more than 10% of batch volume at a time, until the rinse runs pale. Dry the finished biodiesel at 120 degrees until it turns bright and clear. For storage, use sealed 5-gallon metal cans or thick HDPE jugs kept out of direct sun. Leave 2 inches of headspace. Mark the date. Rotate the oldest fuel first. If your winter lows sit below 20 degrees Fahrenheit, cut back to B10 and keep the cans where they stay above 45 degrees. Fuel discipline matters more than fuel volume. Here is the warning you cannot ignore. Transesterification is not optional. Straight vegetable oil causes ring sticking, lube oil gelling, and injector deposits. The Department of Energy says that directly. Raw oil is not biodiesel. Use B20 for your first tank. That means 1 gallon of biodiesel with 4 gallons of petroleum diesel. Change the fuel filter after the first 20 hours because old deposits will loosen. A brass ball valve costs $7 to $14. Clear reinforced hose runs $12 to $19. A washable 100-micron bag filter costs $9 to $16. Even with nitrile gloves, tubing, and a thermometer, the whole learning rig lands between $167 and $248. If you want to move past the first experiment, add a cone bottom settling tank later. Do not add it on day one. Learn the smell of a clean batch first. Learn the look of dry fuel in a glass jar. Learn how fast glycerin drops at 68 degrees. Most people fail because they scale before they understand. One Saturday morning teaches more than 6 months of forum reading. Cold weather is where discipline pays off. If the engine cranks slowly below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, warm the filter head first and cut the blend. Do not blame the fuel for lazy batteries or air leaks at hose clamps. Plant fuel exposes weak maintenance faster than pump diesel does. That is a gift if you let it be one. On a 95-degree day, a 6-kilowatt diesel generator running B20 from this process will carry lights, fans, and a refrigerator without the smell that hangs behind pump diesel. It requires attention once a year if you keep water out and store the fuel in sealed cans. Your conventional generator setup costs $899 to $1,649 to install, $63 per month to run, and lasts 8 to 12 years before it ends up in a landfill. This costs $248 total. It lasts 20 to 25 years. Your choice. Everything I've covered across this channel, root cellar airflow, lime wash mold control, gravity-fed water, I've put it all in one place, step by step, season by season, room by room, in the order the families actually use it. It does not even have a name yet. It's in the description. But stay here, because what Eli kept alive is the part nobody is talking about yet. There is a reason this kind of knowledge feels different when you hear it. It is not packaged for a quarterly report. It was not invented for a showroom. It was carried in memory, repetition, and ordinary chores. That is why it survives attacks that destroy trends. It belongs to people who use things until they understand them completely. And once you notice that pattern, you start seeing it everywhere. In walls that used to breathe, in seeds that used to store, in water systems that worked without subscriptions, in tools built to be repaired with bolts instead of software. The point is bigger than fuel. The point is remembering that dependence was designed. If you're the kind of person who believes that real knowledge has been quietly pushed aside to protect someone else's profit, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe, not for me, for what comes next, because this is not a channel. This is a quiet movement of people who have decided they're done being sold what they already own. I want to hear from you. Drop your state, your monthly fuel bill, and the first engine you would run from a homegrown gallon in the comments. I read every single one. And your answers decide what we cover next. If your grandfather grew a crop nobody around you grows anymore, tell me that too. If your county still has an old seed mill, tell me where it stands. Those details matter. They become maps. They become evidence. They tell us where the buried system never fully died. Next week, I'm going to show you what a 1942 United States Department of Agriculture film proves about another outlawed material hiding in plain sight. The technique uses nothing but lime, sand, and water. And the government record that proves officials knew about it 84 years before telling you. You're not going to want to miss that one.